The distress call was faint, barely a whisper through the static. Commander Ryland Drake adjusted his ship's long-range comm array, frowning as the signal cracked in and out. It wasn't a military code. It wasn't even a recognizable language. Just a single repeating pulse, like a heartbeat in the void. Ryland didn't have to respond. He was already weeks overdue to return to Fleet Command. But the silence in his small scout ship had been gnawing at him, and something in that lonely signal tugged at his chest. He altered course. The source was an escape capsule drifting near the ruins of a shattered space station. The pod was scorched, pitted with debris impacts. Ryland maneuvered the Kestrel alongside and sealed the docking clamps. Inside, the air was thin and bitter with burnt metal. A single cry, soft, almost melodic, drew him toward the rear compartment. She was small, frail, curled into herself, her silvery skin dulled, eyes half-lidded with exhaustion. Her clothes were tattered, barely clinging to her frame. She looked young, though with alien physiology, it was hard to tell. When her gaze met his, she flinched, whispering something in her language. The translator implant in Ryland's ear caught only fragments. "Please, not hurt alone." "You're safe now," Ryland said softly, slipping off his jacket and wrapping it around her trembling shoulders. "I've got you." She weighed almost nothing as he carried her aboard the Kestrel. In the medbay, scanners revealed she was badly dehydrated, malnourished, and suffering from low oxygen exposure. Her vitals were dangerously weak. Over the next 2 days, Ryland kept her on a slow nutrient drip, speaking to her whenever she was awake, even if she didn't seem to understand. She began responding with short words, tentative and shy. Her name, he learned, was Elira. She was from a small colony world in the Rim sectors. Pirates had attacked without warning. The station she'd fled to was destroyed minutes later. She was the only one who'd made it to an escape pod. "The last," she whispered one night, her voice trembling. "No one left." Ryland sat beside her, unsure what to say. Finally, he simply took her hand. Her fingers were cool and thin, but she didn't pull away. Traveling through the void with Elira changed the rhythm of the ship. Ryland taught her basic words in Galactic Common: water, food, safe, friend, while she taught him the lilting cadence of her own speech. Sometimes she would hum soft, unfamiliar tunes that seemed to echo in the narrow corridors. She rarely slept without nightmares. He'd hear her sharp breaths over the ship's comm sensors, and more than once, he found her huddled in the observation deck, staring into the dark as if afraid it would swallow her whole. One such night, he approached quietly and draped a blanket over her shoulders. "You don't have to be alone in this," he murmured. She turned to look at him, eyes glistening. "Stay." "I'll stay," he said, lowering himself beside her. Their journey was supposed to end at the nearest refugee station. But when they arrived, Ryland's got twisted. The station was overcrowded, understaffed, and rife with petty crime. Refugees slept in hallways, their rations thin. A dock official glanced at Elira, then at her sparse file, and shrugged. "We'll put her on the list for transport to a permanent settlement. Could be weeks. Could be months." Elira stood silent, clutching Ryland's sleeve like it was an anchor. He was supposed to let her go. It was the right thing. His duty was to return to Fleet. But when she whispered, "Don't leave me," so quietly he almost didn't hear it, Ryland heard himself say, "She's staying with me." Life aboard the Kestrel became something more than survival. Ryland modified one of the crew quarters for her, painting the walls a soft shade that matched the pale flowers she'd once described from her home world. He stocked the galley with a few foods she could stomach. She learned fast. In just weeks, she was speaking in broken but clear Galactic Common. She helped with basic ship maintenance, her small hands surprisingly nimble with tools. One day, while fixing a loose panel together, she looked up at him with a shy smile. "You, my family now." The words caught him off guard. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "I guess I am." But the galaxy has a way of tearing new peace apart. They were passing through a fringe system when an old Raider-class vessel appeared on long-range sensors. Pirates. Rylan gunned the engines, but the Kestrel wasn't built for speed. The pirates hailed them, demanding they hand over the girl in exchange for safe passage. Elira's face went pale. "They killed my people," she whispered. "No one's taking you," Rylan said. The pirate ship closed in. Rylan dove toward a dense asteroid field, weaving between tumbling rocks. Shots grazed their hull. The Kestrel shuddered, alarms blaring. Elira strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat, gripping the console. "Left," she shouted, pointing as a massive asteroid loomed. Rylan swung the ship hard, skimming the rock's edge. The pirates followed, but a moment later, one of their wings clipped debris. Fire blossomed in the black, and the vessel spun into the asteroid belt. They'd escaped. After the danger passed, Elira didn't leave his side. They sat together in the dimmed cockpit, the hum of the engines steady beneath them. "You kept me safe," she said. "That's my job," Rylan replied. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "Not job. Choice." He looked at her, really looked, and realized she was right. Somewhere between finding her in that drifting pod and now, protecting her had become more than an obligation. It was personal. Months later, Fleet Command finally sent for Rylan. He could return, file a report, and resume his duties. But the thought of leaving her, of putting her back into the chaotic refugee system, felt wrong. Elira seemed to sense his conflict. On the observation deck, she stood beside him, gazing out at the swirling blue of a nearby nebula. "You go?" she asked quietly. "Not if you want me to stay." She hesitated, then stepped closer, leaning against him. "Then stay. We together. Not alone." Rylan put an arm around her shoulders, holding her close. The Kestrel kept flying. Not as a lone scout ship anymore, but as a home. Elira's laughter began to fill the halls where once there had been only silence. She drew little stars on the bulkheads with chalk he'd found in storage, and he let her. They charted small systems together, took on odd jobs to keep fuel in the tanks, and found quiet corners of the galaxy where no one cared who they were or where they'd come from. And when the darkness of space pressed too close, they faced it together, because neither of them was alone anymore. In a galaxy vast enough to lose yourself in, sometimes the greatest discovery isn't a planet or a star. It's finding someone worth holding on to.